Harmony.
The Irie Myrie and Friends Show. This season is all interesting, informative, educational, and eye-opening topics from politics and current affairs to cultural happenings and education. Local and international followers won't want to miss Irie Myrie's honest coverage of Jamaican realities for the diaspora and the world. Reignite your passion for change. Echo the calls for solid social, economic, and political improvements, and hold elected and accountable officials to account with Irie Myrie and Friends at the Irie Myrie and Friends Show. After recent public concerns about the safety of returning residents and visitors, on Saturday, January 6th, Irie Myrie will host a live discussion about diaspora safety and security in Jamaica. So log on to join the Irie Myrie and Friends show with the chairman of the Jamaica Diaspora Crime Intervention and Prevention Task Force, Dr. Rupert Francis, Jamaica's junior shadow spokesperson on foreign affairs, Christopher Henry, security expert, Dr. Clark,
Good evening, everyone.
Ambassador Curtis Ward. Remember, this week's topic is diaspora safety and security in Jamaica on the Irie Myrie and Friends show at Irie Myrie on YouTube and at Ras Irie Myrie on X from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday, January 6th.
Harmony.
It is indeed a pleasure for me, Colin Myrie, and my co-host, Ms. Andrea Savizon, to welcome you to season 4 of the Irie Myrie and Friends show. On behalf of the Irie Myrie and Friends show team, I express gratitude to each participant, each person who participates as a guest or as a viewer. I consider you a part of the team. Season 4 kicks off tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are now, will be coming to you on Saturdays instead of our usual Thursday nights. We have responded to your request, hence the shift from Thursday to Saturday. In season 4, we will be introducing some new features as we look in and out, meaning we are looking into what is happening or what is taking place in Jamaica and what is happening in the diaspora and the wider world. 2024 will be a year that will have major impact on our lives. In fact, one could say it is an election year in Jamaica and in the United States, where we have more Jamaicans living in the United States more than any other country. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome to the Irie Myrie and Friends show for a second time. Ambassador Curtis Ward is not here yet, but he will join us later. Retired JDF Captain, Dr. Rupert Francis, who is another second-time guest. We also have for the first time, Dr. Carlton Campbell and attorney at law, Christopher Henry. These 4 men, 3 now, will be engaging us in a robust discussion on diaspora safety and concerns in Jamaica. This is the most important issue that is impacting on our lives in almost every country. There is a Jamaican, and their safety must be a concern to us. Take, for example, the Jamaican students who were at university in Ukraine. Their safety was a major concern to us as Jamaicans. There are Jamaicans living everywhere on this planet. Therefore, what is happening in those countries is of concern to us. We look forward to a great season 4, and we thank you for being a member of the Team Irie Myrie and friends. Andrea? You need to unmute.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Colin, for the opening remarks. And I just want to take the opportunity to wish our viewers a happy new year, all the very best for 2024 and beyond, of course, and also to wish our panelists, our esteemed panelists, a happy new year, all the very best to these four gentlemen. Three are present. I'm going to introduce all four persons awaiting the arrival of Ambassador Ward. I will start off with Dr. Rupert Francis. Dr. Rupert Francis is a retired JDF captain, a distinguished professor at the Arch Institute Inland Empire Education Department, where he lectures in speech and psychology. Dr. Francis served his country with distinction as a member of the Jamaica Defense Force. He retired at the level of captain. He also was a member of Mutual Life Insurance Company in the sales and a part of the sales and marketing team. Whilst at Mutual Life, he made his mark as one of the company's top producers. Dr. Francis sits on many boards where his knowledge and expertise is often sought of. Presently, he's the chairman of the Diaspora Crime Intervention and Prevention Task Force. He's a contributor as guest columnist in various media houses in Jamaica and in Florida. I'm going to proceed to introduce Dr. Carlton Campbell. Dr. Campbell is from Maypen, Clarendon, from a district called Farm, that's F-A-M, Farm. He attended Vere Technical High School, after which he joined the JDF, Jamaica Defense Force, where he spent 7 years in the Alpha Company 1 JR. He migrated to America and went to college, where he pursued his graduate degree in business administration. He also holds a bachelor degree in criminal justice with minor emphasis in administration. And he also has a master's degree in business administration with minor emphasis in project management. He's a doctor of business administration, where he specializes in criminal justice. Ambassador Curtis Ward, we're awaiting his arrival, but I will proceed to introduce him. Ambassador Curtis A. Ward is a former ambassador and deputy permanent representative of Jamaica to the United Nations with special responsibility for Security Council affairs. He served that portfolio from 1999 to 2002, also serving on the United Nations Security Council for 2 years. He served 3 years as expert advisor to the United Nations Security Council Counterterrorism Committee. He's an attorney at law and international consultant with extensive knowledge and experience in national and international legal and policy frameworks. Policy frameworks for effective implementation of United Nations and other international anti-terrorism mandates. The legal and administrative requirements to effectively implement and enforce anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism, that's the AML/CFT unit. He has extensive knowledge of the legal and regulatory requirements for effective implementation and enforcement of United Nations multilateral and US imposed unilateral sanctions, and the imperatives for rule of law and governance. He's also the executive editor-in-chief of the Ward Post, which is an online publication that focus on global and local issues. I will move along to introduce Mr. Christopher Henry. Christopher Bradford Henry is an attorney at law by profession and is currently the legal counsel at the Caribbean Maritime University. Mr. Henry was a senior legal counsel officer at the Real Estate Board and the Commission of Strata Corporations. He was legal officer at the Administrator General's Department, at the Jamaica Bar Association, the Social Affairs Committee, and the Continuing Legal Education Committee. He was treasurer. Mr. Henry, you can correct me if these are present or past. Portfolio that you hold.
Present. Treasurer of the Bar Association is present.
Treasurer of the Bar Association and the Jamaican the Jamaican Bar Association. Council,
Yes.
and treasurer of the
member.
Jamaican Bar Association. Thank you much for clarifying that, sir. He's president of the PNP Patriots, a member of the International and Diaspora Affairs Committee, and he's also the present Junior Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. I want to take the time to send a hearty welcome to all four gentlemen, and we look forward to a very lively and interesting and engaging discussion. Welcome you all. Mr. Myrie, we'll go back to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, questions. Why do Jamaicans leave Jamaica? Is it for economic reason, meaning a better way of life? Is it for safety? Is it for the pursuit of education? Is it to connect with family? There are many reasons that one can associate with families leaving Jamaica. We hear the word diaspora. What does it mean? To different people, it means different things. I will be asking our guests to tell us, what does this mean to them? I get the feeling that a lot of persons in Jamaica does not understand what the word diaspora is applicable to, because it is not a word that most people living in Jamaica use. One would say, why are we concerned about diaspora security? But it has a lot to do with us. Example, war breaking out, Jamaicans having medical emergency in countries, example, COVID. That's swept the world, and government sending emergency planes to bring home their nationals from that country that has high levels of medical emergencies. There is a large concentration of Jamaicans residing in the tri-state area, which is New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. On that tragic day of September 11, 2001, the world changed as a result of the attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, resulting in the loss of 26 Jamaican lives and the dislocation of Jamaicans who live and work in that area of New York. Also, Jamaicans are incarcerated in other countries. Example, the situation with the pilot guy in Dubai. Crime in Jamaica is a grave concern of members of the diaspora. Only last week, Dr. Rupert Francis was making his voice heard once again. Dr. Francis, could you outline to our guests and viewers what are your concerns on the high levels of crime in the Jamaican society, and what is this group that you are chairman of, Jamaica Diaspora Crime Prevention Task Force? How did it came about, and how long has it been in existence?
Well, thank you very much, Brother Myrie, for having me on your show once more. It's indeed a pleasure. I can see we have gotten younger since I last spoke to you, and so that's very good. I want to welcome the other guests who are here. I've known of them, but I really may not know them in person, but I really want to greet you in the name of our Father. And I want to also say that crime is a thing that I have been studying for a very long time. As you know, I was in the JDF, and I was the first military police officer, and the person who is the ex-JDF on the thing here. I don't know if he knows that. When you go to the first gate, Cotton Tree Gate, I think it's called. It's been such a long time. My plaque is inside there as the military police officer. But it taught me a lesson. I went to England and I was trained as a military police for several months, and I came back. But I grew up in a situation where I loved law and order. I loved policemen. I don't know, when I was young, I used to try to walk beside them and act as if I'm a policeman. I didn't end up being a policeman myself because, my mother had other ideas for me. And I went to work and, to help in the household. And then I developed these traits, should I put it. I was in the Scouts, and then I did a lot of work in York Castle High School in Brownstown, and that kind of put me into a situation. But I grew up in a city in Orchard, a little town, but crime was there, but not too much crime. And after a while of been exposed to the whole business of crime, and I just simply radiated to the fact that why are so many young people getting into criminal activity? And I just try to avoid it, and I try to keep in, my mother said, keep the best of company possible. And so I developed those ideas that I should really help out, because but for the grace of God goes I, because I'm telling you, at one time my mom was very worried about me. And in a so-called household where there's father figure, it's really strange that boys seem to affect boys more. So on that leg, I would say that that's the reason why I'm who I am today. I'm very conscious of who I am. I want to help other youngsters the same way I was helped throughout. And I went to school I wanted to become a lawyer, by the way, for that lucky man in the audience here. I wanted to be a lawyer so badly because I want to be just like Father Manley. There's stories about him and all that sort of thing. And so that's what I want to do. Unfortunately, although I had won scholarships to Gray's Inn and Wolsey Hall, Oxford, and so on, and London School of Economics, I never got the chance to go, just didn't have the money. So I ended up in the military police, and so on. And as they say, the rest is history. Came to Jamaica Defense Force. I spent 10 years with the colors, and 10 years, as you know, you're attached to them for another 10 years, but I only served 10 full years. Basically, after that, I started to, I was here in Jamaica. I was in politics a little bit, for a little while, a spokesman for local government for the Jamaica Labour Party. And then I went into business. And in 1999, I'm trying to cut everything short now. After losing in 99 to Horace Daly, I found I couldn't get a job in Jamaica at all. And so as a result of that, I had to leave Jamaica. And I did. And as I said, I was working and I was held up at gunpoint. And I was very upset about that. So I definitely decided then I'm going to go into law school. And the moment I got accepted, literally, my daughter was killed in a car crash. And I understood she wanted to do psychology and criminology. And I did a master's in forensic psychology. And I've been in the education system with a doctorate in higher education from then on. So basically, that's me. And that's my thing. I did criminology, of course. And I studied it. In fact, my dissertation was on the social efficacy of young Black boys in California in colleges, and that was my dissertation. And I decided to use it, and I have been using it ever since. So that's my long short story. So that's basically it. Anything else you want to know, or I'm good?
How long has the Diaspora crime prevention?
Oh yes, I forgot that once. Okay, the Jamaica Diaspora was formed if you remember, there was a request in 2015 by the Minister Montague. He made a presentation in Parliament that he wanted assistance from the diaspora. And at that time, we decided to form several task forces in the diaspora. One was health, one was education, one was agriculture, and then I came up with the one called the Crime Task Force. So we'd been in operation. It was accredited, or it was given the go ahead with the ambassador at the time, same Audrey Marks, and it was everything was signed off, including the logo, that special logo. Sorry, and then so we got a number of persons who had the talent, who had been into the field of corrections, the field of criminology, and in crime fighting for some time, decades. And we came together, and we had almost 1,000 persons together at the time, and many of them were skilled persons. We offered on several occasions, many occasions, different things to the Jamaican government at the time, and to assist in gang fighting, to assist in safer cities, to assist in many areas of crime, community policing and all that sort of thing. And so we had to come to Jamaica. We went to several trips to Jamaica. We assisted the JCF in many areas, and we have tried to do that. But unfortunately, we were not given. After Minister Chang, I offered him, I have a letter to show, that I offered to assist him, and he said he'd get back to me. He hasn't. And then that famous time we spent together, and he said what he said. And so that kind of boosted my esteem and my colleagues' esteem to work harder for Jamaica and try to reduce crime and violence. I do believe that, and not trying to put any chip on our shoulders or what have you, or get any credit, but if possibly any government had listened to us at the time, it would not be as it is. I do believe that the diaspora should have some voice in Jamaica, and that's the reason why I wrote the letter. But I would imagine you don't want me to deal with the letter right now, and saying that we're asking for the ability to support our country, and not to destroy our country, support our country, and we want a diaspora autonomy. That's what we're looking for, basically.
Okay, thank you. Andrea?
Okay, thank you for those information, Dr. Francis. I had some questions for Ambassador, but he's not here yet. So I'll engage Attorney Christopher Henry. Mr. Henry, how important is the diaspora to the People's National Party? And do you think that the diaspora is being engaged effectively and encouraged to come back and invest in Jamaica? Do you think enough is being done to encourage persons living in the diaspora to want to invest and come back home, maybe for retirement at this present time?
Let me start with the first, and Happy New Year to both of you. And I
Thank you.
return to you and to your families.
Thank you so much.
The PNP's view of the diaspora is one that it is very important. So important that we have recently added a new region to our party structure, in that being the diaspora region, which is Region 10. We have passed a resolution so members of the diaspora can actively be involved in the People's National Party through voting, through bringing various motions, etc. Once they can become members of that region and actively participate in the party's work. I would say in recent times, a lot of the work of the creation of diaspora engagement, etc., was under the People's National Party. The late Delano Franklin is the innovator, if you so please, of diaspora affairs. And we have seen under this government sort of a retraction of much of the work that has been put in by the previous administration, as well as even as far back as Delano. For example, I understand in they always tout everything through the Global Diaspora Council. We understand that members of that council don't really represent the wide cross-section that is the diaspora. Members who are on that council seem to have been handpicked, and the turnout for those elections was even less than our national elections here, which is also a sign of something that we can get into at another time. So if you want to say that you want involvement, you want investment, they have not really reached out to members of the diaspora. They have sort of chose who they want to interact with, and that is not the way to get any sort of involvement from the diaspora or even their investment. I can't say that I want to talk to John Bloom, yet I want Mary Jane money. That don't make any sense to me. That don't make any sense to me. So it has to be a diaspora where all views can contend. And I noticed that we seemingly through the government is only one set of views can contend. Or if you don't agree with me, I don't want to hear from you. And I think Dr. Francis has been the latest casualty of that mandate. So if we are going to encourage investment, or we are going to want investment from the diaspora, we can't be operating in the way that we are operating. And not the PNP, but the government. And the PNP is actually prepared to do quite the opposite. That's
a segue into my next question, Attorney Henry.
Yes.
What are the PNP plans as it relates to addressing some of these current and long-standing diaspora issues? What are some of the plans that they have to put in place when Comrade Leader takes the reign?
One of the first things that we need to do, and I know again Dr. Francis will agree with me, is to reduce crime. We need to tame the crime monster. The diaspora is not going to look at investing home if their investment is not safe. So as you can see, today we announced a new shadow cabinet. Citizen security and safety has taken precedence. Senator Peter Bunting is leading on that. And we know that it's a very important topic of national security. It's very important to those in the diaspora. It is going to take center stage. We've recognized the importance of separating diaspora affairs from foreign affairs and foreign trade, in a sense. While we're in opposition, we have suggested that we establish a diaspora senator, which is the clearest indication that we intend, once we are in power, to have a senator and quite possibly an entire ministry dedicated to diaspora affairs, much larger than just a unit in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Yes, so diaspora affairs can control their own selves, their own affairs, and we can interact directly with the diaspora rather than having some more bureaucracy. Let foreign affairs focus on exactly what it is. You guys are not foreign, you're family. You're just not living here, right? So let you have your own ministry and your own senator to root all your concerns and your queries and everything through, rather than just being a unit attached onto the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. So that is some of the plans. We also will be looking into the possibility of the vote for the diaspora to vote in national election. We're still trying to work out the logistics in relation to that, but we're looking into the idea, such as there are a number of countries throughout the world have their diasporas that vote rather than coming directly home. They can vote. They have some mechanism in place that they can vote in national elections, and we would, given that as we know, the diaspora is a larger. There's more Jamaicans living outside Jamaica than in Jamaica. We would definitely want to include you in the process in the government of your homeland.
Right, and I totally agree with the idea of a senator, a representative in both houses, upper and lower houses, for diaspora affairs. I'm not sure about the whole ministry, but they having a voice that speak directly to diaspora issues and diaspora affairs in both houses. I think that's a very excellent idea. and it can more centralize those
Yes,
issues and get them directly addressed other than have them spread out too wide amongst other matters, and sometimes they tend not to take priorities.
precisely.
I love that.
And let me just add that by default, during PNP governments or our side governments, we have always, it has been like the senior would focus on foreign affairs and the junior or the deputy would focus on diaspora. So we have always done that in our dispensation. I'm not so sure what the current government is doing because I don't see much of the current deputy very long engaging with you much. There's a lot to be desired, but I'm not getting political today. I'm going to be myself today.
One question for you again, Mr. Henry, being the shadow minister for foreign affairs and foreign trade, do you think the diaspora is organized enough and effectively to be more impactful? Because I know that, yes, we accept that Jamaica is not doing enough presently, but I just want to have a broader perspective because we have to find solution, and this show is about addressing issues, highlighting the issues, and also trying to brainstorm around finding some workable solutions. Do you think that presently how the diaspora has organized itself, that it is to capture the issue or the issues of Jamaicans living across the many different territories, countries? Do you think that as a body it is organized effectively to capture all of those issues, to have them channel into the proper area for or avenue for them to be addressed, to be heard and to be addressed?
Well, if I recall, the structure that is in place is that it's a sort of regions, and the regions tend to elect their representatives. So I know the United States is cut up into the South, Northeast, Midwest, the West, etc. And the rest of the world is also similarly cut up, for example, the UK. The current structure, as I had alluded to earlier, has been heavily, for want of a better word, tainted with politics. The council that is supposed to be, which is the Global Diaspora Council, that is supposed to be in place, which is supposed to have all the views of the various Jamaicans living throughout the world. If those views do not contend with what they feel that the government, from what I understand, what they feel that the government is pursuing or are objecting to some government policy, those views seem to simply fall by the wayside. So the diaspora concerns are really not being heard. And that is something that we should not allow to happen, because what is happening now is that the diaspora who shows like this and various other shows are now finding other outlets and are saying that they have gone to the government with certain criticisms, and it's as if nobody is listening to them. And clearly that is not what the Global Diaspora Council or the diaspora unit in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was set up for. The government is to hear what our citizens living abroad have to say and to address their concerns. They are not being addressed now. So it is definitely something that we need to look into. I don't think it's really the structure. I think it is how it is being operated. So I really don't think it's the structure. I think it is how it is. But I am open to, if there are improvements to the structure that the members of the diaspora can suggest, that we would look into and see if we can improve it. Because everything is a work in progress. Nothing is perfect.
Can I say something after you finish?
Dr. Francis.
Go ahead, Dr. Francis. Sorry.
Yes, I just want to say thank you very much for that presentation. It's really refreshing to hear, because obviously we have not been treated. We have been treated like more than third cousins, and not even second cousins. The structure is terrible. The structure is outmoded, and it has to be changed. And you cannot have a diaspora council that represents the diaspora, and it is the born out of the government of Jamaica. It should not happen. We should have an independent, and we should work together. Of course, we all. Let me tell you something. For those who think that we don't love Jamaica, and for example, after my letter, they say I don't love Jamaica. They're crazy. I mean, who has given so much time, effort? We eat Jamaica. We cannot stop, and my doctor said, you got to stop eating some of the Jamaican food. And I have to stop. But I have stopped for a while and then I go right back. The point I'm trying to make is this, that many of us love Jamaica more than we love ourselves. And we know what is, and then when we look at Jamaica and the trajectory it is going in, it's the wrong trajectory.
Yes.
Because you look at the crime, you look at what's happening in the schools, you look at around the place, and you're saying you have answers. We have psychologists, we have people can intervene, intervention, and prevention. Prevent all of that for free. We offer them for free. Yet they went other places with other information, and my gosh, it's a mess. And so I love everyone. Listen, I enjoyed my time. I spent 2 years as an alternate and 4 years as a member of the ministry, and yet that is somebody that you would hold in disdain. I understand they had a response. I have not seen the response yet, and so they know how I feel about it. They know how I feel. Yes, exactly. So the point I'm trying to make is that you cannot treat people like that. What they did was seek to attack me. Well, continue, because you're not going to win. Because as far as I'm concerned, my life is an open book. Anyway, so that's it. I just want to share that we know what we have to be done. And by the way, we are achieving it. Trust me.
Well, you see, Dr. Francis, they have attacked you. That there are various attacks that have been on you. I've even heard some dubious comments about your record at the JDF, that you were always a troublemaker.
Wow.
Yes. So I did trust me. That is their modus, though, you know. That is their modus.
They attack the person and leave the issues hanging.
Right.
Absolutely. But the point I'm trying to make is, you go check my record. You check the soldier. I had at least maybe 500 calls from soldiers, which I'm still in contact with. Anywhere I go, every soldier's from me because they remember me and remember what I've done. Okay, so they can talk, but we have the reference and we have the, we have the people supporting us. Right. All we need is the support of the government to assist the poorest among us. If we do not look after the least among us, who are we going to look after?
Fully agree.
Thank you for those remarks, gentlemen. I know Dr. Campbell is here and he has not been engaged yet. I'm going to turn over to Colleen to get Dr. Campbell's views on some matters, and we'll come back to both of you for sure. Over to you, Mr. Myrie.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Dr. Campbell, I think you will have an easy go because Attorney Henry has basically answered much about one of the questions that I have for you. But anyway, do you know how much money is injected in the Jamaican economy on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis? Because I am of the view that remittance coming into Jamaica is an activity that is generated to Jamaica. So just as we see tourism with a dedicated minister who sits in the cabinet, would it be reasonable, right, to have a minister and a ministry of diaspora affairs, which I said Attorney Christopher Henry talk about, of the diaspora affairs, which is separate from a minister of foreign affairs and foreign trade?
So good night, everyone. I don't know if you guys are hearing me.
Yes, hearing you loud and clear.
So, well, all right. First of all, sorry for the blank image. I'm actually driving from work, right? But I have to show my respect and come on. To answer your question, Mr. Myrie, the remittance to Jamaica on an annual basis, it's anywhere from one to 3 billion. And what it depend on the year. Let's say like for last year, it went down a bit because between January and July it was about 1.9 billion. So I haven't seen the end of the year yet, but I am thinking it's about in the 2 billion. But I know for last year it was about $3.3 billion annually, right? For 2022. With that said, the remittance contribute to about 22% of the Jamaican GDP, right? And to be honest, the remittance industry in Jamaica is highly regulated by Bank of Jamaica. So I really don't think that they should have a ministry to regulate it. Why? Then corruption will seep in. The issues we're having, why remittance is it's let's say a source for funding criminal crime, is the people who owns these the Western Union agencies or the MoneyGram. They are the one that, yes. So they're playing a blind, they're putting a blind eye to somebody who's red flagged in the system that this person cannot collect, but they are now sending money to these people for kickbacks. And they know for a fact that these monies are actually coming from scamming or from criminal ventures, or the money is here to buy weapons. Because they know, believe me, they know, right? And so what we need to do is the Ministry of Security need to put things in place, mechanisms in place, right, to counter these or to actually cut these ventures in before it actually liquid. Remittance now gonna stop. Our remittance will always increase because you and me leave Jamaica and come up. Where we come for? Education, better life, and to take care of your family. And we're gonna always send back to our family, right? So we can't kill 90% because of 10%. Make sense?
Right. Do you think, or do you know if the dispensaries like the Western Union, the other dispensaries of remittances, if they're being audited, are they being audited by BOJ?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yes, they have a weekly audit system, also monthly and annually. And also it is they're very, when I say they're robust, I am talking from experience, and they're very, very robust. And in order for you to be a Western Union, agent down there, for me, I had to get FBI background check, 10 years.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And them really dig into it. I can tell you. However, we have the unscrupulous people who still are going under the table. You understand? And I do them backdoor deal. Because people, if you own a Western Union, you know the criminals in the area. You know the criminal in the area. So you don't say, okay, this someone a criminal, we can't give me money. But people will turn a blind eye to get an extra 100,000. And that's the problem. We have to recognize that Jamaica has become a nation of where that promote criminality, culture, and mindset. The Jamaica that we used to is gone. This young they thought that crime is because of AK-47 is about almost 500,000. You can't be poor by that. We have to stop playing games and just be honest. And this government, what I'm seeing, they're putting a band-aid on a gush.
Yes, right.
Make sense. We need a robust crime plan that will counter crime, that will go in the inner city and deal with the community policing. Go in and again, what are we doing to change the 5-year-old from following in the footsteps of the 20-year-old?
Interventions are not very robust.
Yeah. What we need to do, we need to force the mothers and fathers to start having the conversation at the dinner table, teaching the younger generation coming up, because our generation gone, the millennial gone. We have to talk about between 1 and 5 to change the mindset, change behavior, change the subconscious thought. And if we don't, let me give an example.
That sounds like it needs a whole ministry. That needs a whole ministry.
Well,
Dr. Francis,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
you and I, we come from the same, you know, background in a sense. And we love law and order. And we love the rule of law because we are military men. Right?
Yes.
You and I work hard and we go to Jamaica, people that respect we. They respect the man who come here, come kill and thief and sell drugs and go down. The juggies, I'm at that night place. We don't have no respect.
They
So
do
we
not
have
only
become a
drug them
nation of
anymore.
criminals.
It's the scam of them too.
Yes, well,
yes, criminal.
Well, you know, let me just say here that I agree with you. But you see, let me tell you, when we 2016, we have the record to show we could have cut gang violence, cut all of this. You know, we brought in AI people from all over the world. We did that as a task force. Okay, and we did, and they did not listen. We talked what you're talking about. Remember, it's a biopsychosocial problem. You know, only a couple of people are born to be criminals, but some of them are psyched into it. And the last is we are products of our environment, like you have just said.
Environment, the boss.
Exactly.
Environment.
So therefore, we have to. And I don't understand how people in the government could be saying that is a public health issue, crime. Where did they get that from? It's a leadership issue. It's a leadership issue.
Let me, if I may, we will say that a previous administration saw these issues coming, you know. A previous administration, and when a certain program called the Values and Attitudes was put in place, the the current government, its predecessors, etc., basically tore it down and said it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time. This is us trying to the class encourage classism, all kinds of things, till eventually it was shut down. Had that program succeeded, I don't think we would be this far down the road. Had that program succeeded, because we saw that certain things were eroding from Jamaica, and now it is fully eroded.
Well, you know something. Go ahead.
I was just Ambassador Ward is here, you know, so we would just want to welcome him and then come back. Andrea. Andrea, you're muted.
Welcome, Ambassador Ward. We were awaiting your arrival. I was talking and I was muted, sorry. Is he here?
Yeah.
Yes, he's here.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
We did your introduction awaiting your arrival, so we're not just throwing you in the hot seat, but we have some questions for you. One of the first questions is that we are aware that you have extensive and detailed work at the United Nations as Jamaica's ambassador. What were some of the threats as it relates to national security of countries in the Caribbean? And in your answer to the question, are these threats still of concern?
That's a very interesting question. The threats that existed then were basically from illicit trafficking in drugs, illicit trafficking in small arms, and at that point, we had seen the beginning of a spread of gang violence, but it was mostly related to the international trafficking in drugs, using Jamaica as a transshipment port, and the receipt of funds into Jamaica to enforce the drug trafficking territories that different groups controlled. That's what we saw in those early years. And if you ask me, those problems got progressively worse. And today, it's a crisis situation in Jamaica. nobody pays much attention to the drug trafficking as much as they do to the arms trafficking. But the narcotics trafficking still drives crime in Jamaica. There are a number of other crimes that have been introduced into the system. Among them, human trafficking, scamming, and certainly the personal crimes, the crimes not gang related, but on personal issues have proliferated more than it was then.
Okay, thank you much for that response, sir.
You mind
Go
if
ahead,
I
Dr. Campbell.
you know, just
Go
chime
ahead,
in a
sir.
bit?
Please do.
So the crime there's a crime that's happening in Jamaica in a subtle manner. I don't think people taking notice of it. But over the years, we have seen where a number of our young people keep disappearing. And what people are not mentioning is about the crime, the crime of organ harvesting. Organ harvesting. I won't go deep into this because I'm still doing some research on this to get, factual, let's say, evidence base, knowledge before I go forward with what. There's a big, it's a big market, very lucrative market as well. And I will say this, the Chinese are the main contributors to this market.
Yes.
Meaning, well, that's why another topic, but trust me, something is there.
Something is there. Thank you for raising that, even preliminarily, until you do further investigation for evidential fact finding, Dr. Campbell. Thank you for that.
There's something I'd like to say quickly.
Go ahead.
Listen.
Oh, Dr. Francis.
Crime pays. Crime pays. It's sad, but crime pays. And this is what I don't understand about Jamaica. How come so many people can just take it as willy-nilly? People can, and do certain things. I understand that, but if it was organized in a way that they could get opportunities, I don't think it would be there as much as it, especially among young people. And the evidence is shown by research by Dr. Herbert Gale, many others, as to what the possibilities are. So, and them being disappearing, that's also another thing that we need to look into. And they could, and when you refuse help from the diaspora, where we have expertise in those areas, and we're not, we're certainly not going to charge you what other people charge you. And there's any charges at all. People just want to help. Because if we do not do something now, we'll not be able to recognize Jamaica in 10 years away. So I agree with my colleague there that say we have to start with the children. Really start with the children. And I just give one instance quickly,
that Attorney Henry spoke about, if that had continued,
that's correct.
The
That's
social
correct.
ills right now would have all this crime and violence from juveniles, would have less
absolutely.
Criminal activities going on, because most of the social ills stem out of youths that are detached, they're unattached, and from homes that are broken. And I don't think enough is being done to get down to the root. We keep putting band-aids over open sores, and that's why we're not getting anywhere when it just keeps festering and it gets worse and worse. But what I want
to talk to your neighbor,
Francis, for you to tell us if you have do you have an open channel of communication into the government, the present government, so you can channel whatever policies you're recommending, whatever recommendations you have, whatever remedies you think could assist us? Do you have an open avenue to communicate with the president?
I'm I'm going to say absolutely not. And I'm going to ask Ambassador Ward to tell him he sent me a video of when that man, that gentleman, the minister, what he said. So you can ask Ambassador Ward. I'm not making it up. You ask him and he will tell you what he told us about what we should do as people in the diaspora. Over to you, Ambassador Ward. You answer the question.
Being the chairman of the task force that you're presently of right now, with all the information that you want to feed into the government to try and solve some of our problems, you don't have an open avenue to do that.
Absolutely not. No way. You cannot even. I wrote to when the current Minister of Security it's my colleague. I've known him for years, as I told you. And I sent him a letter. I have a copy of it, calling him. He said, call. He never called me back. And yet he insulted me when I was on a program. When I asked him openly, and he thought it was a joke, but it was not. And that was the beginning of the end, as far as I'm concerned, of asking them anything anymore. Doesn't make sense.
Some structural changes need to be made to facilitate key and essential persons in the diaspora to have a free flow communication into the government ministries. It cannot be, as it is now. But thank you for sharing that openly, so we know where some of the problems that we're facing.
Sorry, one of the things, if I can just come back here for a second.
Thank you, sir.
One of the things I forgot to mention is that we've seen a significant growth in corruption in Jamaica. And corruption is a major driver of increased criminality. And so we cannot tackle crime and deal with security unless we deal with corruption.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Absolutely true.
And what Captain Francis was just referring to, there was a program on which the Minister of National Security appeared, which he, without hesitation, rejected the idea of diaspora expertise helping to fight crime in Jamaica. To paraphrase his words, he said Jamaica had the highest qualified crime-fighting personnel in the world.
Oh, really? Was that supposed to be a joke?
And what they need is not for diaspora to come and drive around in patrol cars, but to send money.
Wow. Yes, I remember that.
I am summarizing what he said. The question was raised by Captain Francis about diaspora assistance in crime fighting and the availability of diaspora expertise. And basically that was his response.
Wow. I'll never forget. And that's why I asked Ambassador Ward has never forgotten. We couldn't believe our ears.
Yes, don't just send money. I remember when it came out. Yes.
I couldn't believe it either. So
that's what diaspora is all about. We are the milking cow.
Yeah.
And so they will milk us, but they don't want to take us to be part of their solutions. Just provide money and other financial resources or whatever. Send them all the equipment that they need. But they really don't need it because they're already fully equipped, right? And they're the best trained and qualified. I mean, that to me was hysterical.
That's ridiculous.
When he mentioned that Jamaica, the JCA, had the highest trained personnel and expertise anywhere in the world. I don't know what his geographic boundaries are in terms of what constitutes the world, but I think he got that very wrong.
Well, the many rollouts of state of public emergency would suggest otherwise. And the current rapid rise in crime and violence would suggest otherwise. So I still can't put my finger on
Andrea, what I think, I think he's talking about the expertise in forming new squads and, going around killing out gunmen. But you can kill all the gunmen from now till next year. If you don't go to the root, if you don't go to the root and go to that underlying, what do you call it now, the hidden force behind the crime. As Dr. Francis says, crime pays. And if crime wasn't paying, it wouldn't be so so high in Jamaica, or globally, right? And corruption and crime tie together.
But crime is not our biggest problem. Corruption is our biggest problem. And when we have a current government that is just so infested with back-to-back corruption, and they have basically normalized corruption like it's a part of the constitution. Where do we go from here? And I understand the frustration.
Let me say something.
That would have gotten even the current issues here. How long are we going to continue and just turn a blind eye? It has to. I think the propensity of how we treat with these matters, it has to intensify because it's getting out of hand. We're will enough be enough.
Unfortunately, right, we don't have no control as long as you have a sitting government. What we can do is vote for the government to make change, and we make sure that we as a people just don't go and blow fifi and blah, blah. We go and hold people accountable. That's what we need to do, right? And once you go, you vote. If you're not doing your job, better you vote them out, right? Now, we as the diaspora need to have a wing here, where since we are the financial cow, we need to have accountability as to how the money is being spent. And we need a annual breakdown or a 90-day breakdown as okay, we contributed X amount, it was spent here, and you need a track record because basically
totally right. You're totally right. But you want to have autonomy. It cannot be a Jamaican diaspora if the Jamaican diaspora is not involved. Exactly.
It has to be here.
It has to be.
Because if we don't have a representative here, if we don't have a wing here, then you again, corruption, then just give us something. Okay, that's what, we need clarity.
Yeah.
We need clarity to us.
Attorney Henry, legislatively, how do you think we could get someone, within the structure, or maybe the structure of how the diaspora operates now, maybe it needs to be revamped. I'm not sure because I don't understand the structure fully. However, Attorney Henry, what legislative process would need to take place to say have a representative directly out of the diaspora that is a part of our parliament that is there to deal fundamentally with diaspora issues? Because I figure the current structure now will not facilitate that because parliament only have elected
I would ask Ambassador Ward as the senior. Listen to me.
No,
I'm not putting. You know why? Because he was there before me and before me, and I want to tell you, Ambassador Ward has a rich legacy of what it takes to form a diaspora. It's only that it's gone the wrong way, but he was there, and they formulated, and he has the right idea until it was hijacked. Okay, it was hijacked.
And I do yield to Ambassador Ward as well in that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Ambassador Ward, you're on the floor. You're in the hot seat, sir.
You're muted, Ambassador.
Is he hearing?
I don't think he's hearing. Ambassador, you're muted, so we're not hearing what you say.
I'm sorry about that because I didn't have anything to say what I just said.
No, Ambassador. I want you to speak to the history.
The question you were asking, could you kind of ask it again?
Right. I was asking legislatively, what changes would need to be brought forward to have a representative directly out of the current structure, even a revamped structure.
Okay. I remember the question now. I remember the question.
Right, to speak to diaspora issues here in our parliament.
All right, first of all, it is a constitutional issue.
Right, I figured.
And in the context of constitutional reform, this is one of the issues that members of the diaspora have raised with the Constitutional Reform Committee. Because if you're a citizen of the Commonwealth, after 3 months in Jamaica, you can run for parliament.
Yes.
You can serve in any position in the government. But as a citizen of Jamaica, who has acquired U.S. citizenship, you are precluding from running for a seat in the parliament, for being appointed a senator, and for holding top government positions. So we need a change in the Constitution to remove that prohibition and discriminatory practice against people like us who live in the U.S. Okay? The leader of opposition has given a commitment to the diaspora that he will effect the necessary changes in the laws so that the possibility of an appointment of a diaspora representative to the Senate could be a reality. And we must hold him to that when he becomes Prime Minister. In the meantime, the representatives of the People's National Party on the Constitutional Reform Committee must advocate for those changes in the reform of the Constitution. And while I have heard that they have raised that issue, I want to hear a more robust advocacy for those changes. And Christopher, you are here, and I know you'll take that message back, because this is a very broad sentiment held across the diaspora. And by the way, I noticed today a press release from the leader of opposition reshuffling his shadow cabinet. And he has now named Dr. Angela Brown-Burke to be the shadow minister of foreign affairs. Who also has responsibility for as shadow minister for diaspora affairs. And so we would like to see Dr. Angela Brown-Burke taking up this issue and getting that discussion moving forward. Not that I think the Constitutional Reform Committee is doing anything, but at least we can have an input.
Yes.
I support that wholeheartedly. And I want to say to you, but the other day, I was forced to write a letter, now the famous letter. I used to think that somebody used to tell me that the pen is mightier than the sword. And I tend to believe it because I've never seen such a reaction to a letter before in my life. And because it's time we stand up and say, we deserve better. We in the diaspora deserve better. I always refer to Ambassador Ward because I learned from him. I learned through his patriotism and all that. And we have to have people coming along, and we have to pass the baton too. And we're willing and able to do it, but we have to do it in such a fashion, a respectful fashion. Okay, if you don't respect me, why are you talking to me? You know what I mean? Why don't you speaking? You don't have my interest at heart. You say, and you find excuses. He's not a Jamaican. He's not this. He's not that. Come on, give me a break. So that is why I chagrin. Anyway, I don't want to hog the show, so let me turn it over to somebody else.
Thank you for that, Dr. Francis and Dr. Ward. Dr. Ward, back to you. I wanted to find out if you think that money laundering is a major threat to the Jamaican banking and financial community.
That's meaning.
Wherever you have high crimes, wherever you have narco trafficking, illicit gun trafficking, you will also have money laundering. Wherever you have human trafficking, there's a lot of money laundering that goes with that. All international crimes are connected one way or the other to money laundering. Jamaica does have some pretty good laws to deal with money laundering.
Yes.
I can't attest to the effectiveness of the enforcement of those laws, but I know they do have the expertise to deal with money laundering, and they have the laws to back that up. How effective it's being implemented, I really can't speak to that.
So you would agree then that there is a correlation also between money laundering and remittances?
Money
Yes.
laundering, what?
And
Between
remittance.
money laundering and remittances?
Yes, yes, of course.
No.
Of course. Of course. Go ahead, my friend. You explain. But of course, I agree.
Okay.
Anywhere there is crime, anywhere there is graft, there is money laundering. Anywhere there is unjust enrichment, anywhere there is enrichment without a viable source, legal source of that enrichment, there is money laundering. Money laundering is one of the major tools of crime. And money laundering itself is a crime.
Yes.
So the linkages are there. There's no question about it.
But we
and there are many ways, there are many forms that money laundering takes.
Do you think that
the proceeds of crime are the major source of funds being laundered?
In analyzing our present structure in place to fight against money laundering and terrorism, the funding of terrorism, do you think that our laws is rigid and effective enough? Do you think that the present laws, if they should be applied how they ought to, if they could help to resolve some of these issues?
Yeah. I'm glad you linked terrorism and money laundering, because coming out of the 9/11 attacks on the United States and the UN Counterterrorism, UN Security Council passed Resolution 1373, which replicated many of the provisions that were contained in the International Convention for the Suppression of Terrorist Financing, all dealt with money laundering. And the Financial Action Task Force have provided recommendations for governments to adopt to deal with terrorist financing and money laundering. With the passing of Resolution 1373, there was a mandate which made it obligatory on all UN member states to adopt countering financing of terrorism legislation. And Jamaica, at that point, did put in place new legislation to expand the money laundering legislation that pre-existed, that added countering financing of terrorism, strengthening the what is it, IFIN, they call it, which is the Financial Investigation Division that deals with money laundering. So the laws are there, the structure is there, the regulations are there. And I'm comfortable with that. What I can't attest to is how effective the implementers have been.
Okay, thank you for that, sir. Mr. Myrie, you have been quiet for a while. Do you have any questions that you want to be specifically addressed by our panelists?
Yeah, I guess so.
Here comes the bomb. Here comes the bomb.
I will show it again, that Ambassador Ward. Is the collapse of SSL a major concern to persons in the diaspora? And would you say that if the crime situation is not checked, would it be a deterrent to members of the diaspora investing in Jamaica?
You said something about the collapse of?
SSL.
SLL.
SSL.
SSL. Yes,
SSL.
Oh, okay.
it's a major concern.
You know,
Yeah.
there are a lot of issues surrounding SSL. And I don't believe we know half of what occurred. I don't believe we know 10% of what occurred. When I said half, I was being generous. I cannot believe that one person did the damage that was done to that financial institution.
Lock the door.
I cannot believe that one person, under the watchful eye of experienced managers and executives, could have undertaken what she did without anybody finding out until the whole darn thing collapsed. So that is quite troubling. And, you know, I wrote an article when this started out, and I said, because there was a big announcement that they were asking the FBI to assist with the investigation, because there's a lot of cyber investigation that was required. And I said, those who are calling in the FBI had better be careful, because they may have gotten more than they asked for. Because when the FBI goes in, they are not going to just look at what occurred in Jamaica. They're going to look for any connection to the US financial system in terms of laundering those funds. And the web may catch many who were out there untouched. I will ask anyone on this panel right now, since the grand announcement about the FBI was being called in to assist, has anyone heard anything about the FBI participating in this investigation?
No, Ambassador. No.
There has been no, there hasn't been any.
Why? I mean, why? Did they back off of getting the FBI? I don't think they backed off because they read my article. But maybe when they spoke with the FBI told them exactly where this could end up. So they went to the UK and got a private firm to come in and do what they call cyber investigation. But even let's say that firm was fully equipped to do this investigation, what were the terms of reference given by the finance minister to that firm? Were there any limitations?
Interesting question.
On what that firm could investigate and who to investigate? We will never know unless there's a change of government and the new finance minister reopen this whole case.
So true. Thank you for that response. Do you figure that some members of our diaspora might have been investors in SSL do you think that there's a possibility that those investors could engage the FBI on their own to investigate, to protect their interests? Is that a possibility?
I don't see that as possible unless there was a linkage between the financial institutions here and the proceeds of the crime.
I see.
The fact that somebody was a depositor here in the US and they took that deposit and sent it to Jamaica for investment in SSF, that alone would not give the FBI authority to intervene. Remember, the FBI has to be invited in unless the crime is linked to the abuse of a US financial institution. If the funds are laundered, the proceeds of the crime are laundered through a deposit institution in the US, then by all means, it's a federal offense and the FBI can intervene.
Okay, so thank you for that. All right. Mr. Myrie, any other questions?
No, not this time.
Right. I'm just gonna flow this to all members. Okay, go ahead, sir.
It is from time to time, I would have discussions with a friend, our friends, and they have expressed that they would love to come back home, but will never come back to Jamaica, not even for a vacation, much more to live. Ambassador, do you find that as a widely held view by Jamaicans you interact with?
I have no fear in visiting Jamaica. I am very cautious on where I go and how late at night I am on the street. You cannot just go to Jamaica and visit anywhere you want to visit and go anywhere you want to go. There are places I never went to before I left Jamaica. There are places now that when I go to Jamaica, I don't go there, never will, never have. I have to be safe or feel safe wherever I am. But what you find is that the people who live in Jamaica are living in fear of crime. And those of us from the diaspora, when we visit, we are cautious, but we don't have the same fear. Not that we believe that we are untouchables and harm won't come to us. But we understand that when you are living abroad, there are areas you don't go. Crime-infested areas you stay away from. But people in Jamaica feel very restricted, and the government's use of states of emergency put more scare in people than it protects them. Who's that? Mr. Campbell and Dr. Francis were talking earlier about social interventions. And you cannot fight crime. You cannot take away the attraction of criminality and the attraction of the gangs if you do not have appropriate social intervention. You cannot stop crime by just using force. Force is a short-term remedy. In the medium to long term, you have to change the quality of life of people, in particular young people. And when we speak of the quality of life, we usually categorize them as human security. And we're not speaking about security from crime. We're talking about the social conditions. We're talking about access to quality education for all. We're talking about adequate health care for all and the quality of the institutions where poor people have to go to get health care. I read recently about the Bustamante Hospital for children, not having enough beds for the children, and mothers with their very sick children have to wait 24 hours even to see a doctor, because the doctor can't treat them in the corridors or standing outside. They have to have a room in which to treat them. So the quality of life of people, you know, we have a broken education system. And I mean broken. We talk about free education, but we don't talk about free quality education. And that's a huge difference. We talk about free healthcare in the government institutions, but we don't talk about quality healthcare. We're talking about other social interventions. I hear the government brag about low unemployment, low inflation. But low inflation where? You go to Jamaica and walk into one of those supermarkets, and the prices are 2, 3, 4 times what you pay for the same items in supermarkets in the United States. So when the rate of inflation is low, it's low from what was the base rate. And the base rate is already high cost of living, and it goes up by 2 or 3%. Sure, it's a low increase. But data is important. We talk about low unemployment. When over 700,000 Jamaicans of working age are not counted in the data because they're not seeking employment. Why? They're either uneducated and unqualified for jobs, so they're not even bother looking for jobs. They are disabled. They are old, and when I say old, they're over 50. I shouldn't call that old because that includes me. But but they use those data to trick the public.
Yes, to manipulate the data.
Yeah, they trick the public. Because if you were to add that 700,000 Jamaicans of working age into the workforce, the unemployment rate would be about 15, 20%.
That is so true.
Do you understand? And when we talk about the social interventions to improve education, healthcare, and so on, they'll tell you they don't have the resources to do it. But that's a lie. Let me say this clearly. It's a lie.
It is.
The finance minister brags of hundreds of millions of dollars in national, international reserves sitting in the Bank of Jamaica. And you can improve the education system. Okay? So this whole thing, I mean, it is so chaotic. The situation is unbelievable and it's quite frustrating. And it's frustrating to members of the diaspora who want to help. It's frustrating because every year I know different health missions, for instance, that go to Jamaica, and they treat thousands over the space of 2 weeks. they may treat up to 3,000 marginalized people who have healthcare issues and can't get treatment in Jamaica.
Yes, true.
Okay, I'd like to say something.
Well, let me just finish this, Rupert. The schools, many of the schools could not survive if the alumni associations weren't pumping resources into them.
That is true.
That's the diaspora at work.
That is true.
Absolutely, totally.
Not to mention the remittances.
That's true.
I just want to say, Ambassador, to endorse everything that you have said, and I also want to say to you that that's on the basis where the letter was written. The letter was not written by me alone, but that's diasporans, and we want to help, but we find out we have to go to this government and tell them what we intend to do if they do not do what they said they were going to do. And they might be laughing, but they're not laughing now, because I am telling you that if you look and read it, the response has been tremendous right throughout the world, right? And I'm saying this, my phone is just like ringing off the hook and so on. But we are also there and we're talking to people. More people are joining our campaign to do this, and whatever we say we're going to do, we're going to do. And Ambassador has now warned them again that they must take us seriously, because we in the diaspora, we care for Jamaica, we are investing in Jamaica. And by the way, it was not 2-point-something billion that came in this year, it was 4.5 billion. Okay, billion with a B. So I just want to say that, because it's important to understand that the diaspora, so all of us, and listen now, Jamaicans seem to have a problem with Jamaicans. Let's put those things aside, because this is the future of our country we are talking about. We have to have a solid future as ambassador, good hospitals, good schools, good jobs and so on. And the marginalized, we have to take them out of that and move them forward. I remember in the 70s we had this thing that could educate people and all that sort of thing. It was great. That sort of attitude. We now have to move on, and we just don't worry about politics, whether you're green or you're orange or what have you. Because I have friends. What am I going to do with my friends who are in orange? What are they going to do with my friends who are in green? We don't wear those colors anymore? Are we saying that? No. Let's stop that, and let's put Jamaica first for the first time, I would imagine, in history. And we have seen it we have been independent from 1962. Ambassador Waters summed it up beautifully. 1960, we have been independent. And so do not blame the British anymore. We have to blame ourselves. I'm going to tell you something. They're digging out our soil, right? And as you know what they did? They have a 6-bedroom house right now, 50 feet away. You have a huge chasm down there, okay? They're giving away our land. They're doing all sorts of things. And before you know it, we have to get back investment from our diaspora to hold on to our country, because we'll no longer look like our country. And listen to me, Ambassador Ward, I'm telling you, people like you, we have to salute. And everybody that's on the panel, we have to salute. Sorry, I just had to say that, because just read the letter, read it, and we have 2 more to add to it, and we are doing everything that we said we're going to do. We are going to do it, okay? As a group, as a team, and we're not going to stop. One love, one heart, one destiny. One love, one heart, one name, one destiny. That's it.
Thank you for that, Dr. Francis. What I want to ask for each person living in the diaspora, and also from our representative here for foreign affairs and foreign trade, if you could lay out some recommendations. We all know what the current issues are, what the current problems are. Some of them have been recurring for a while. And if you could lay out a summary of recommendations, each of you from your point of view and perspective, how you think we could, find some solution, narrowing the gap between the problems and coming to some resolution going forward. We are in a new year. It's a good time to turn the tables. What are some recommendations from you, Dr. Francis? You know your challenges. You know what the problems are that you're trying to address for a while. What are some recommendations that you think, if those were in place, it would have made your life better? It would make things easier for you to get some solutions.
All speakers said it before me as well, and Ambassador Ward and the speaker from the People's National Party and my other colleague from the former JDF. said, but I'm going to say it again. Engage with the diaspora. I cannot overuse that. Engage with the diaspora truly for the first time. Understand their capabilities. Stop ignoring them. I was on a platform, at the same platform, Let's Connect, and I had someone had his hand up to ask a question from the beginning of the thing until the end 2 hours later, and they ignored him and took on people that they had had earmarked before to speak, all right, and just to speak niceness. No, we must stop that. We must listen to each other. We must work with each other, because even the dull and the ignorant, they too have their story. So I say engage the youth, as the ambassador said. Engage the young people, because without them, otherwise, that's what you see what's happening. And furthermore, you think it is only them stealing? Come on. They have seen the corruption. They've seen the nepotism. They've seen all of that. And you think they're dumb? They're not dumb. They are saying, I want mine too. Let's get them out of that mindset. Somebody said it earlier. Let's get them out of that mindset, and let's work on engaging the diaspora, that from the top level, and stop patronizing the diaspora and take them seriously, because we take ourselves and we take Jamaica seriously. That's what my point would be.
Miss Dr. Campbell, same question.
Yes, to piggyback on Dr. Francis, I think they should engage the diaspora as well as tap into the expertise that we have here. And again, we're not charging. We're not charging no crazy money. We want to come down for the love of our country. Also need to engage the youth with with programs. Also change the culture and mindset from a tender age. We have to start make at least a 50-year plan. 50-year plan, not just a 5-year band-aid plan. Make realistic plans as well, right? Also invest in education. Educate. And a major thing that I think we need to do is the diaspora, we are contributing $1.9 to $3 billion a year annually in our remittance. We now need to say, okay, we are contributing to 22.4%, 22.2% of your GDP. We now want accountability. We want accountability. Make sense?
Dr.
We now need to raise our voices.
Dr. Campbell, the average of remittances over the past 3 years is over $3 billion US dollars a year.
3.3 billion. 3.3 billion. And I'm saying we now need accountability. We now need accountability. We are contributing to your GDP. We now need accountability. This is our voice. We're going to raise our voice, and we now stop talk till we get accountability. And how we do that? We need representative here, so we have clarity of how we money are spent.
Thank you for that, Dr. Campbell. Ambassador Ward, same question.
Let me just add something to what I've heard. You remember I mentioned the massive amount of money in the NIR.
Right.
You will hear many of them in the government touting tourism. But the bulk of the foreign money earned in tourism does not stay in Jamaica.
Exactly, so true.
It does not make it into the NIR. But take a look at the diaspora remittances. Average over $3.2 billion a year for the past 3 years. And before that, average of over $2 billion a year. Even during COVID, diaspora remittances went up. Okay? Where does the money come from to go into the NIR? When a diaspora member sends their money to Jamaica, the recipient in Jamaica does not receive the foreign currency. The foreign currency goes directly to the Bank of Jamaica. The recipient received the equivalent in Jamaican dollars. They don't see what a US dollar looks like when you send the money by Western Union or any other money transfer system. They don't see the British pound or the Canadian dollar. They go to collect the funds and they are given to them in Jamaican dollars. all of the foreign exchange goes into the Bank of Jamaica for use by the government, including to build up this much bragged about NIR. Now, going forward, I agree. We have to deal with the social issues. We have to improve education, healthcare, and so on. In other words, we have to enhance what we call human security, according to the United Nations definition, includes all of those programs. But we in the diaspora have to calibrate or recalibrate how we approach these matters. You know, I wrote an article, it was based on a speech I gave to a diaspora organization event in London. I did it using Zoom. Unfortunately, they didn't pay my airfare to come up and do it in person, which is a preferable way, of course. And the title of my speech, and I will send a reference to everybody who's interested, is the diaspora is broken, but it speaks with one voice. And what I meant by that is, while we are not coordinated or empowered as a diaspora organization, each of us Jamaican in the diaspora have the same issues. We agree on all of the same issues. And so we are speaking on these issues, but individually. I have not commented on the letter, the infamous letter, I must say, which has sparked so much interest, for the simple reason that the issues raised in the letter are all valid issues. All valid and reasonable issues. But I would use different methodologies to put my case forward. And all of us don't have the same ideas in terms of methodologies. What you feel is right for you may not be right for me or right for some other member of the diaspora. But I don't believe any member of the diaspora can disagree on the issues themselves. Where you'll find disagreement is how to effectively pursue those issues. Corruption, which I believe is one of the issues raised in the letter, is endemic in Jamaica. But you don't want to hurt the people of Jamaica. You want to target those individuals who are engaging in corruption, who are culpable, and who are avoiding accountability for their actions. You want to target them without hurting the people. So we have to perhaps recalibrate our way of doing things to get the message to have its maximum impact. And I don't think we are doing that at the moment.
Thank you for your views, Ambassador. Attorney Henry, same question, but I just want to add to your question is legislatively, right, wrapping up legislatively, what recommendations would you give to make for more ease of ease of a structure of communication or linkage between our government here and the core persons who are representing the diaspora, so that there's a free flow for communication and feedback and implementation of recommendations and policies.
It's not just a matter of legislation. It's a matter of political will.
Yes.
do they want to truly and honestly engage the diaspora? That is the question. And that's a political decision.
Okay.
We have enough laws, except for the constitutional prohibition against dual citizens here in the United States holding office. That has to change legislatively and in the Constitution. But everything else is there. You know, I read an article in the past week or so in one of the papers. This new excitement about small modular nuclear reactors being introduced into Jamaica. Seems like there's a lot of excitement. And I asked a question of someone who would know. I said, do we have a legislative framework? Do we have the regulatory framework to deal with nuclear energy in Jamaica and to deal with nuclear equipment and the precursors and so on? And to my great surprise and pleasure, I received the copy of legislation which was adopted in Jamaica in 2015 by the People's National Party government. And when I spoke to one of my mentees down in Jamaica, that this had been in place since 2015. The response was, and we thought this was a new thing. Because the way the government talk about it as if them just discover it. Well, SMRs, the small modular reactors, have been around since the 50s. They are significantly new developments in the technology. But the US military has been using it since 1952 or 54 to power their bases abroad. Okay? But there are new technologies, and Canada has a small modular reactor action plan, which they launched about 2 years ago to make the SMRs available for use in Canada and abroad. And one of the origins of this new excitement happens to be a Canadian Jamaican major investor in Jamaica. I don't know what the linkages are, but there are some linkages I would suspect. And just in 2022, the US government, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, approved a design developed in the United States for the first time to manufacture SMRs. So with the energy security of the Caribbean that was planned, one of the commitments of the Biden-Harris administration in the 9th Summit of the Americas is to ensure energy security across the Caribbean. So there's a possibility that Jamaica could benefit significantly. But before we get to the point of bringing these reactors into Jamaica, there has to be broad discussions. And the people must be fully informed of all the pros and the cons of this. So when you ask about legislation, what I'm saying, basically, I use that example because there are legislation in place that we don't even know about.
That's so true.
You know, and I know under the PNP administration, as a matter of fact, the current leader of opposition was Minister of Justice, who was responsible for that particular legislation in 2015. And under that administration and prior thereto, under PNP administration, lots of laws were put in place to develop Jamaica. The massive highway construction, the tourism facilitation, construction, and so investment in tourism. All these are laws which were put in place under PNP administration, and this current government is reaping the benefits.
And taking the credit.
The restructuring of Jamaica's financial institutions, the structures, coming out of the 2008-2009 global recession, have been used as model for the rest of the world. And to the credit of the current finance minister, he has given credit to the work done by Minister Peter Phillips, then finance minister, to restructure the Jamaican financial architecture to be where they are today. And he has been reaping that benefit. And now people are looking at him as this great finance minister and financial wizard. He inherited everything he has done. So there are legislation in place for a lot of things, but the people don't even know about them. We are not informed.
That's
and
so
that's
true.
part of the problem.
That is
You
so
don't have to reinvent much of the wheels now. Many of these wheels have been spinning for years, but they're not gaining traction because they're not being implemented properly.
or at all. Some of them not implemented at all.
And that's a mouthful.
That's so true. Thank you so much, Ambassador Ward. Attorney Henry, any closing remarks? I know Ambassador took some of your question. Any closing remarks, sir?
I really don't have much to say after Ambassador Ward, except that we on return to government will definitely have to push that constitutional reform in relation to dual citizens and the citizenship issue, as well as ensuring, which doesn't need legislation, ensuring that at least one of the senators, the appointed senators, is a member of the diaspora, but or not a member of the diaspora, but one that has very close links with you. So that would be a first painless situation, as well as revamping the entire diaspora council structure and the communication between ourselves. And it comes back to just simply listening to all of you and listening to the suggestions and listening to the various positions so that we can collectively craft a position to benefit Jamaica and to benefit the various things out here. So that's all I really have to add. Ambassador Ward has said most of what I would have indicated. I had actually forgotten about the nuclear issue, because they are out here touting it as if it is brand new. And we had already long passed that legislation. That it must be said that during 2011 to 2015, the current leader of the opposition, then Minister of Justice, led a robust raft of legislation modernizing and setting the stage for a modern Jamaica. One such act is the now being used very, very often, the Insolvency Act. And let me Anthony Hilton made a release earlier this week asking the government to try its best to cushion the rate of inflation and cushion the effects of this high inflation culture, and that, as Ambassador Ward rightfully indicated, that we're paying 3 times for items here in Jamaica than versus in the US or abroad. And he's asked that the government try to intervene to cushion the increases that is passed on to the consumer. So that's all I'd add to what Ambassador Ward said and our agenda in relation to the diaspora. When, not if, when we are elected to government again.
Thank you so much, sir.
Let me just add to something Christopher just said, because when the shadow minister Hilton made that request of the government, it's not a wild request, because most of the food being consumed in Jamaica today are imported. And because they are imported, the customs duty add to the cost. And the government has the ability with the massive NIR. I keep going back to the NIR, because this is money sitting there idle by while Jamaicans suffer. They can use that NIR to reduce much of those customs duties on imported food. That's what you're supposed to do with the NIR. Not to have it sit there in the on paper in the vault or wherever. Use it. And you can use it and still have in reserve that which you will need if there's a sudden drop in foreign exchange and you have enough money in reserve to purchase, to pay for imports of food and other necessities over a period of several months.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Ambassador said, but renewable energy, we need to get away from the fossil fuels. We have sunshine and so on, because the cost is too costly. Whatever I do down in Jamaica, I've seen it. It's just crazy. And I don't know how people have to live with those costs. They have to turn off their plug out their fridges and so on. So we need to look at renewable energy sources, because we have sunshine the majority of the year. There shouldn't be any. People shouldn't be wanting water and all those facilities now in 2024. And the roads are despicable in small areas that people are coming from. So those are some very, very big concerns that I would like to see changes in. And we would like the mining to this horrific destruction of our country be stopped, and the access to beaches, etc., and all that should be reconsidered, and all that sort of thing. There's so many things that affect the people, the poor people, and their lifestyle and how they live. So we have to address. I hope that the new government, whoever the government is, will address those issues.
Yeah, renewable energy is critical. We have some of that now, but it is not near enough. We should reach at least 50% of our energy consumption should be renewable energy generated. I just read where one country up in Northern Europe has now achieved 50% of their energy consumption from renewable energy, and they don't have sunshine 365 days a year like we do. And the technology is there for us to use. We have wind energy, solar energy, wave energy, all those things. Yes, we're using natural gas, which lowers the carbon footprint, but it is still not good enough. The nuclear energy idea, sure, we have to look at it, but we have to go into these things with clear understandings of safety and so on to the people and to the environment. So these are issues which the public need to become far more aware of than they are now. And I want to thank you for having me on the program. And I know you're going to dismiss me right about now.
Okay, so we have passed our closing time, but the conversation is so interesting and engaging, so we just allow persons to speak. So Mr. Myrie, you want to come in before we wrap up?
No, you can go ahead and just wrap up.
I just
Okay.
want to say quickly that we need to contact each other if any questions, any concerns, finding out what we're going to be doing next in regards to the diaspora, the letter. Certainly, I've heard. I'm going to talk to Ambassador Watt. I did try to reach him, but unfortunately, it's too busy a man. So anyway, I want you guys to let's link up, especially my ex-JDF person that I've been trying to find. I couldn't find him. Now I found him. You better link up with me or else.
Definitely,
would-be
definitely,
minister.
Captain. Definitely, I will.
Okay. Yeah, and the would-be minister, boy, you sound like what's his name? The former finance minister, doctor. Him sound exactly like him. I don't know. You must be a brother. Anyway, that's it for me.
Henry just shared
I
his,
take that as a compliment. Thank
the
you.
person can record that. His number and email, and his email address was just shared. All right, gentlemen, I thank you so much for being here with us for the start of our new season, season 4. Ambassador Ward, Dr. Campbell, Dr. Francis, Attorney Henry, thank you so very much for being here, sharing your expertise and knowledge and recommendations, and highlighting some of the issues that not everyone would have known about before listening to this program. And we just hope that the government will recognize the importance of the diaspora. There are more Jamaicans living overseas than are living presently in Jamaica. A high part of a percentage of the GDP is funded by remittances. We can't just take in your remittances and not wanting to hear you and give accord to your concerns. Respectfully, by now, I had expected that a clear channel, a structured channel would have existed for communications and this dialogue and discussions, shared ideas. I honestly thought that had existed between the diaspora and our government. I'm told by Dr. Francis that there are some challenges there. I'm hoping that those will be remedied in the very near future. But again, thank you so much for being here. All 4 of you have contributed to this program, and we really hope that some solution and some improvement going forward will come out of this show. All the very best for the new year, and of course, we are looking forward to have some continued communication with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you too. Have a good evening,
Have a
everybody.
good
All the
evening,
best.
everyone.
Well, Solomon, Happy New Year to all.
Happy New
Thanks.
Year.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, have a good one. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank those who are watching the program online. Thank you all for watching, and Happy New Year. All the best.
All the best. Brother Myrie,
All
thank
the
you. Thank you
best.
very
Take
much.
care, Brother Mary. Take care.
Good.
It was a pleasure.
And,
Thank you.
Attorney Henry, pleasure having
yes,
you.
yes. Good. Please
Thank
keep
you.
in
Yes.
Colin,
in
you're
touch.
closing out
Wonderful.
first. We stay here until you close out, Colin.
The state of returning residents and visitors on Saturday, January 6th. Irie Myrie will host a live discussion about diaspora safety and security in Jamaica.